Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of our viewers. Today we are back with another Monday meetup after a short break on our Monday meetups due to a holiday in Canada. Today we'll be discussing the Student Success Center, both on the Thunder Bay campus and the Aurelia campus. We have quite a few guests with us today to discuss all of the support services and programs in place to help support our students and make sure that they achieve our academic and personal goals. Before we dive into that, I would love to chat about the Lakehead International Live Series. So in the previous week, we saw quite a few different events. Thunderwolf Tuesday saw Michelle, an environmental science student, on Instagram Live. We also had our Wednesday weekly admissions update. As per usual, every Wednesday we do that with our undergraduate and graduate admissions team. On Thursday, we met with Esther, an applied life science student who is now entering nursing. And then on Friday, we met up with our faculty of nursing, or our school of nursing, I should say. So like I mentioned, today we're going to dive into the Student Success Center, but upcoming this week still we have tomorrow on Instagram Live an interview and conversation with Peng, who is an education and math student on the Thunder Bay campus. We again have the Wednesday weekly admissions update. On Thursday, we are going to meet with Simran, who is an applied life science student. And last but not least, we'll wrap up this week with a Faculty Friday meeting biology and Dr. Joseph Kearney. So as I said, I do have a few special guests, but to start off, I'll introduce myself. My name is Jordan. I am the International New and Social Media Officer here at Lakehead University. I help oversee our social media, our online events, online recruitment, live events such as this, and plenty more. But I'll pass it off to Patrick to introduce himself now.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Patrick Carr. I am one of the international recruitment officers here at Lakehead University, primarily working with students who are based in the Middle East, Africa, as well as the Caribbean, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the university for all of my colleagues who are based around the world.
Thank you so much. And next I'll pass off to Sarah to chat about what she does here at Lakehead.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Lewis, Director of the Student Success Center on the Thunder Bay campus, and we also have some services on the Aurelia campus. And I'm just excited here to meet with you and hear your questions about student success. Sorry for the kids in the background. They can be a little bit noisy sometimes.
No worries. Thanks so much, Sarah. And just to let our viewers know, of course, we are all working remotely right now. So if you do hear any unusual office noises, I myself have some animals that might start barking any minute here. Of course, just we'll go with the flow, and we're gonna make sure we get you your information today and answer your important questions. And last but not least, I'll pass it off to Danielle to speak about what she does here at Lakehead.
Hi, everyone. As introduced, my name is Danielle Poeta. I'm the Acting Director for Student Affairs at Aurelia. So I support students in a variety of staff members here on our Aurelia campus.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Danielle. So I will chat first about what we're going to cover today, some of the topics. So just to give you an idea, this is the order that we are going to discuss topics. So if you have questions related to some of these specific items on the list, please hold off until that time, because then we can really dive into it. If you do have any general questions about Lakehead University, though, myself and Patrick are happy to answer those questions as well. So we are going to do a brief overview of the Student Success Center, and then we're going to cover academic preparedness and skills for success and how we support students through different efforts there. We'll talk about career advising and planning, as well as the career fairs that we host on both campuses. Then we'll dive into cooperative education, which we've already covered actually in a full in-depth webinar with some of the student success team members. We did a career and co-op webinar, so you can check that out on our YouTube channel if you would like. But we're going to cover the general topics once again. We'll chat about orientation and first year experience, which our teams are working very hard to plan right now. And then we'll chat a bit about leadership opportunities, of course, all while answering your important questions today. Things to remember throughout today's webinar: if you like what you're going to see, or you like what you are seeing, the recording will be live on our YouTube, hopefully later today. It typically takes about a few hours for us to download it and re-upload it to your YouTube channel. But no worry, you can access that at Lakehead University's YouTube channel. If you do have questions and you're joining us from Zoom, you can use the Q&A function to submit those, and we'll be happy to answer those. If you're joining on Facebook Live, you can use the comments section, and we'll be happy to answer those as well. And if you are joining us on YouTube and watching this as a recording, or you're watching the Facebook Live as a recording, you can always comment on that video still. We will receive that notification. We'll be happy to answer your question and get back to you promptly. Last but not least, I'll definitely dive into this one towards the end, but I do encourage you to stay connected with us on our social media channels. We have plenty of activity going on there, major announcements coming out from the university. We always repost those as well. We are giving sneak peeks into what the Lakehead life is all about. So without further ado, before we jump into academic preparedness and skills for success, maybe I'll pass it off to Sarah to start to chat about a broad overview of the Student Success Center. And then if Danielle, you would like to follow up too, that'd be awesome.
Thank you, Jordan. Yeah, I'm happy to provide a bit of an overview. So the Student Success Center is responsible for a lot of the programming that we're going to be talking about today. So that's everything from the academic success programming to careers, and also our orientation and first year experience programming. And really what we aim for at Student Success is to welcome students into the university community and provide the kinds of supports and services that will create good conditions for academic success, as well as leadership opportunities, and really engaging in the university experience. So I'm not sure, Jordan, I think that a lot more of that will come through the conversation about those individual areas. But I would just say that we strive to provide these services across both campuses in Aurelia and Thunder Bay. And then maybe let Danielle speak a little bit more to the experience in Aurelia.
Awesome.
Very much to echo what Sarah just mentioned, in Aurelia, we're a little bit smaller. So we have about 1,500 students on our Aurelia campus. So any of the supports and services that Sarah was talking about, and as we will continue on talking about, we do have those supports and service on our Aurelia campus.
Awesome. Thank you so much to both of you. So now that we have covered the broad overview, obviously, as Sarah prefaced, we are going to dive into each of these topics, and that's where we can really expand on the concepts and answer your questions, of course, related to them, and speak to how we do support our students here. The first one is academic preparedness and skills for success. So I know that ties in quite closely to the academic zone and some of the workshops we offer. So I'll pass off to Sarah to speak to those.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jordan. So for the academic support zone, there is space within the library on the Thunder Bay campus and in Aurelia within residence for the academic support zone. Of course, right now we are operating virtually, so it's a bit of a different situation than our typical offerings. But I'll give you a sense of what normally happens first, and then we can talk a little bit about how these services are being offered virtually. So in a typical year, there is a space on both campuses where students can go to study. There are tutoring services that are available through that space, as well as writing supports. And so each of those, there's a schedule for all of the tutoring that's available for each program, available online through our platform, where students can sign up for tutoring. And then there's also the ability to drop in. So group tutoring is free of charge and available to all students. And then for individual tutoring, we do offer referrals to individual tutors if students are interested in individual tutoring. We do get good uptake of our tutoring services, and often students will meet other students in their program or studying the same area and be able to create study communities coming out of the taking advantage of the tutoring services. It's also just a space where many students gather in groups to study or study individually. As far as the writing services, these are quite good. We have writing coaches that will sit down with students early in the development of their essays and papers and talk about how to approach academic writing in their particular area of study. And so that service is available for all students free of charge, and they just need to sign up and send their materials well in advance to be able to take advantage of the coaching. That coaching service, it's the general principles of how to approach academic writing are covered in those coaching services. It is not an editing service, just to be clear, but there is really great support for how to approach academic writing through the coaching. Now, of course, normally in normal times, this would be offered in person. But these days, because we are operating virtually, all of those services have transitioned into virtual appointments. And so we've been seeing great success and great uptake by students in having their tutoring services delivered by Zoom, having questions answered by email. And then for the writing coaching sessions, everything is the same, but it is in a Zoom sense, as opposed to in person. Is there anything more, Jordan, that you'd like me to cover on that?
No, I think you really covered some of the general topics that discuss the support services that are in place, and I really like that you covered what we're doing currently, given the current pandemic and given the current situation that we're not working on campus and we are doing things remotely from our own homes and whatnot. So I think that speaks really well to how we've stepped up to the plate to support the students.
And before we close the topic, of course, I can't forget to mention our academic skills preparedness sessions. And so these are offered in the fall, and those are workshops that are available to all students to attend to, learn what kind of skills and habits will support academic success. And we are, of course, moving those to online webinars, and those would be recorded and available for students.
Awesome. So just to clarify, with those academic prepared webinars and sessions, what can a student expect to kind of learn from those? But also, do we typically see like first years doing that, or is it each year students kind of refresh on the topics?
I think it can, they're open to all years, but certainly we see more first year students take advantage of those webinars as they are going into their first year of academic study. And so they tend to have more questions and just want to make sure that they're prepared. So what is discussed, some of the topics would include how to really understand a course syllabus or outline, which helps students to be successful in courses. That course outline or syllabus is very critical because it outlines all of the assignments, all of the reading that needs to be done, etc. So that's an important skill. There's also what kind of habits are necessary for success. And so attending lectures, how to take good notes in lectures, how to plan your time and your study time, and these kinds of habits that we see as being so important for academic success. So it covers those topics, and of course also emerging topics. So if students have questions or are struggling with something in particular, those issues can be addressed in those webinars or in-person sessions in normal times.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And I know from experience, there was a session on note making or taking notes 101.
Note taking, yeah.
And I know that that's quite a popular one because it's a different experience. I know students typically come, maybe if you're just typically studying undergrad, they come from a high school setting, which is a very different setting in academic learning wise. But I also know that our philosophy to stand behind small classes to encourage students to interact more with their peers and of course get that more one-on-one time with their professor is also very beneficial in the entire experience itself. So next I would love to talk about the career advising and career fairs. This is always an exciting topic for students, and I know end goal for all of our graduates, no matter if they're an undergrad, postgrad, is typically to get their dream job or start strong into the career field and then work their way up, of course. So I'll once again pass it off to Sarah to speak about all the different services offered.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jordan. So for the Career Zone, we're so excited to have opened the Career Zone just this past year. And so we are expanding significantly our career support programming. I think the core of what we aim for through the Career Zone and that what we are excited to support students in accomplishing is to become work ready and career ready. And so there are a number of workshops. These are now moving online, of course, but in normal times there would be workshops in the Career Zone related to career planning, to discovering what career path and students are most interested in, what they can do with different degrees that they're taking at Lakehead. There is also very straightforward, I would say, things that need to be done to be successful in a career search and in setting a student up to be successful in their career, such as resume preparation, interview skills, and job search. And we find that those are the most popular services that we provide. So there are peer support services. So students can sit down with a trained senior student to review their resume for feedback. And there are also career counseling services available to all students for more detailed feedback once some of those basic workshops have been completed, and once a student has more specific, specialized questions about their resume or job search, there are those additional counseling services that are available from a career advisor.
Awesome.
So did you want me to speak about the career fairs as well, I guess? So there are a number of career fairs throughout the year on campus, in normal times, and those are quite popular. There are employers from throughout the region and also from other provinces in some cases, from different areas of Canada, that employers would come to Lakehead, set up a booth, and then they speak with students over the course of the day, or sometimes more than one day. I think we have several of our career fairs are multi-day, so they're set up in a central place on campus for students to come. We encourage students to do the resume preparation workshops in advance of the career fair so that they're prepared to speak with employers. And there are very many good opportunities that are available through those career fairs and subsequent interviews. Some companies do interview on the days following the career fair, and we've had students with job offers resulting from these events. We do also have employers visiting campus on a regular basis, and so students are welcome to interact with employers at individual booths across campus at different points over the school year. And we also have a very specific Canada Revenue Agency, that's an agency of the federal government. They do a careers day on campus for us in the fall, and they interview students on the spot during that event. So that's a bit of a summary of some of the career events that we have. We do have very good relationships with employers, and they are on campus interviewing students, speaking with students, and there will be opportunities for students to interact with those employers throughout their university experience.
Awesome. And then also to kind of build on something I know you mentioned is that we have employers from all over Canada coming to our campus. So all over different provinces, obviously many from Ontario too. But speaking to that is that many of these employers are also national and international companies. So even though they might be based in Canada or they might have an office, coming to our campus from Canada and recruiting for their Canadian offices, there are then opportunities for employees to then, of course, work within the company around the world. So speaking to the reach that we have with so many different partnerships and working relationships with all these employers is really important too, because I know many of our students are always interested in seeing what the diversity of our opportunities are here. So I do have a question related to co-op. I just want to let some of our viewers know we're going to dive into co-op in a few slides. So we'll get to that, don't worry. I do like to see that we have quite a few questions coming up, and we will be answering those in just a few seconds. There's another question related to online classes. So if you're an applicant to Lakehead University and you have questions about online classes, we are actually going to be hosting applicant receptions. So if you've applied and you've been admitted, we'll be hosting dedicated applicant receptions to answer all sorts of questions related to online courses, what the fall semester looks like. And those will be hosted in conjunction with our in-country recruiters, but as well the Director of International Enrollment, Robert, who is my boss. And that's definitely going to be a great session. I encourage everyone to attend if you've applied to. So we do have a question. Can I get a job offer from the US?
So the Cooperative Education program, it does depend, the way that the job offers work does depend on a faculty by faculty basis. And so I think that it's something that, it's a question that we would need to, that would depend on the opportunity itself. We do have students who have international co-op opportunities, but it would be considered on a case by case basis.
Awesome. Alrighty, so I'm just gonna read through the Q&As really quickly. So like I said, there's a few questions in there that are related to topics that are still coming up in the slide, so we will definitely dive into those questions in just a minute. But it looks like some of these other questions I will have our recruiter Patrick answer in just a moment. But in the meantime, we can move on to the next slide and chat about cooperative education. Here we are at the time. So I'll pass it off to Sarah once again, and then we can dive into that question again.
So for our cooperative education programs, and so as I mentioned, the cooperative education program options, they are listed on the website, and I'm not sure, Jordan, would you like me to share the website for students? Because I feel like there's a lot of specific information about the co-op.
What I'll do is, for those of you joining us on Zoom, I can share the link in our chat. For anyone watching this after the fact that can't access the chat, we do have a vanity link, so it's lakeheadu.ca/co-op, so COOP, and that simple URL will direct you right to the website.
Okay, I'm just sending it to you right now, Jordan.
Perfect.
So we do have very good information about our cooperative education programs on our website. They are specific to specific program options, and so I recommend that you look very carefully at the web resources to locate the program that you are interested in and see if there is a co-op option for that program. But essentially, the cooperative education program is an opportunity for students to study and then have some kind of experience in a workplace to be able to apply some of that knowledge that they are learning through their studies in the real world. So we're very proud of our co-op program. Students can then take the theoretical knowledge that they are gathering through their time at Lakehead, apply it to a workplace, and then come back to the academic study and bring that work experience into their academic study. It's also an excellent way for students to explore what kinds of employment opportunities that they're interested in, and to learn a little bit about what different workplaces are like, what the Canadian workplace is like, and then to hone their career skills for when they graduate, so that when students are graduating, that they do have these cooperative education placements and experiences in workplaces to support them in getting that first job after completing their program. And so, Jordan, I'm not sure what more specific questions there might be. We do have cooperative education advisors that can answer specific questions as well. And so anyone is welcome to reach out to me, and I can connect them with our advisor to be able to support those questions.
For sure. There is one question. I know that you can answer detailed questions in the sense that we don't know what program this person is pursuing. But are there any formalities to be followed for admissions into co-op, or what does that process look like to actually be accepted into the co-op program once you are eligible, of course?
Okay, and I can speak to the typical processes. So the cooperative education programs, some of them, it is on a program by program basis, but for all of our co-op programs, there is a minimum average required to participate or to continue participating in co-op, and so that is a requirement, and so there is an approval process before the beginning of the co-op terms. So that's just something to be aware of as you go into a cooperative education program.
Awesome. And also, I think that some of our viewers would appreciate to know some of the employers that we've seen our students go to in Thunder Bay, but also around Ontario and nationally. Off the top of your head, do you know some of the popular employers or some of the more recent employers that we've had our students visit?
Sure, I can just give you a few names, Jordan, but I know that there are so many more, so that's always a hard question. I know that we've had students successfully placed at large companies such as Husky, Bosch, Resolute is a local Thunder Bay company who regularly employs cooperative education students. We've had, and then there are also a number of students who are employed with we have one local tech company that's employed some cooperative education students as well. I think that there are just so many examples, but those are a few names.
Yeah, and I know from experience, just from doing the co-ops, I'm talking about it so much because I know it's such a popular option. I've also heard of students working with Bombardier, which has a local site in Thunder Bay, but is also a national and international company. RBC, BlackBerry, IBM, just to name a few, some of the really major companies. I also saw Honda on the list there. So some really amazing opportunities. And of course, I know that even if the company maybe isn't listed, if you hear about a job opportunity or a co-op opportunity with any sort of company, so it could be your absolute dream company, you can always apply and work with our co-op advisors, work with your faculty members to make sure that that co-op will fit the needs of the program itself. But then seeking that job and getting that job opportunity is well within the realms of your program, of course. So I will pass it off to Patrick now, who is an International Recruitment Officer. There's quite a few questions that are just general questions about Lakehead University, and I know that he marked them that he would answer them, so I'll pass it off to him now.
Yeah, thanks, Jordan. I just want to work through a few of the questions that have come in through the Q&A. One of the questions, the first questions we got is about the availability of shipping documents to the university. And so I just want to let this student know that if in your country right now, due to COVID-19 and the global public health crisis, you can't send us your documents like you normally would via express mail, that you should try and email them to us, and I'll post our admissions advisor email in the link. And we are working with all of our students right now to ensure that global shutdowns don't affect their admission process as best as we can. And so a follow-up question to that is, are we accepting digital documents? And the answer is yes. On a case-by-case basis, we are generally accepting digital documents at this time. So I just wanted to reassure that student that just because mail is temporarily suspended, it's not going to slow down your admissions process. So in a minute, you'll see me post that email.
Also, and elaborate on that, Patrick. I know that doing the Wednesday weeklies with both our undergraduate and graduate admissions team, I myself have learned quite a bit about some of the new policies and procedures that they've put into place, which I'm really proud about, is the fact that even though that we're not receiving on a regular basis like we used to when we were in office, if you are able to ship official documents to us or mail us official documents, we are receiving it. I believe it's weekly. Both admissions teams are receiving those packages from the university's mail services department. So you can still send us official documents through the mail. But like Patrick mentioned, we are now working with each applicant in case-by-case situations to potentially receive electronic copies via email. So I know, for example, if your institution back home is able to send us an electronic copy of your official documents directly from their institutional email, so it has to be the email linked to the school, we are then accepting those as official too for both undergrad and graduate studies. But if you do have any questions, I strongly encourage you to reach out to both the undergraduate or graduate admissions teams, as they are the experts in their own field, and they can certainly answer those questions in depth and give you way more details. Also, you can certainly join us this Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time and ask those questions live with us while they are on the air.
100%. I was going to say you could also join us Wednesday for you and I and the admissions team to chat about all of these admissions questions with the experts. So another question came in just kind of around finances, about how do you pay your tuition fees, as well as one particular student was issued a scholarship. So I'd like to congratulate that student and any of our scholarship recipients. You've worked hard. You worked hard to earn that scholarship. I'm going to post 2 links in our chat about how scholarships work, and essentially they're just credited against your tuition balance once you register for classes, but all the details can be found online or on your offer letter, and I'll link those below as well. How do you pay your tuitions? I'll be linking a page that has a number of ways to pay tuition, and I know, was it last week or the week before, Jordan, you and I sat down with Chris Gallinger, our International Accounts Officer. So there's a great webinar up on YouTube already if you want to take some time, where Chris, you and I go in depth about how to pay tuition and all the ins and outs of that.
For sure, yeah, and that was 2 weeks ago, like Patrick mentioned, and it is already live on our YouTube channel. So if you visit our YouTube, Lakehead University, and visit the playlist Lakehead International Lives. That is the playlist dedicated to all of our live events and our recorded webinars. And like Patrick mentioned, we did sit down with our International Accounts Officer, Chris Gallinger, and we really dove into that process of paying fees, how to pay them, what's the most popular option, how scholarships are applied to the account, where you can view your fees and when you can get receipts. All that sort of stuff is covered. And I do encourage you, if you watch that webinar and you're still looking for more details or you have more questions, of course, you can always reach out to us directly too. And our email at Lakehead International is welcome@lakeheadu.ca. And that's our general email. If we're not able to answer the question directly, we will certainly be happy to connect you with the proper department and ensure that you do have the next step ready.
Yeah, Jordan, and the last question that came in is a question about the visa application process. And I know this question has come up a lot over the last few weeks, especially as more and more students are starting to finalize their plans for their fall 2020 educational start date. And the question is essentially that the visa office locally, like many visa offices around the world, are currently not open. And so this student is looking for just some guidance on what they should do. And my advice to you is that actually the Canadian visa process can be started online. So it's an online application, and I will post a link about how to start your online visa and study permit application with the Canadian government. And a large part of the process can be done online. Now, there is a requirement that you will have to submit biometrics. And if you need to submit biometrics, you will need to wait for the biometric offices to be reopening. And we'll post a link of how to find out that information if the visa office near you is open or not. And we are starting to see, thankfully, in some parts of the world, offices that are reopening. And so as the world starts to move towards more normal operations, we are seeing visa offices in places like China starting to reopen. So we're hopeful that as we go forward here, more and more places will reopen and students can submit their biometrics. However, I would suggest and reiterate that if you haven't already started your visa application process online, you should start to do that today, as you can do a lot of that regardless of whether or not the local office is open or not.
Awesome, and I think this is a good follow-up to another question we just received, is am I eligible to attend online classes if I do not have a study permit or visa? So the simple answer is yes, you can certainly attend your online courses if you do not have a study permit. And we've also heard clarity from the federal government of Canada that studying online courses, provided that you do less than 50% of your program online, will not affect your postgraduate work permit, which is really exciting news to hear from the government. But also to reiterate what Patrick was saying is, even if you do intend on studying online for the fall semester, do not delay that application for your visa, because the more students that delay, of course, the processing times will lengthen. It get longer in general because more students will push it off. And it's really important that you have that study permit and visa, so that when we do get to a new normal and we're back to in-person courses and whatnot, that you are prepared to make your travel to Canada. Yeah, that sums it up pretty well. And now I'd love to toss it back to Sarah Lewis. So we do have a question in the Q&A. When will co-op semester start for the Bachelor's of Computer Science? So that's the undergraduate program. And I know that Sarah was just looking into that for us.
Yeah, so the each cooperative education program has a different sequence. So that just means that depending on which program, cooperative education program a student is enrolled in, the start of the placements does change. For the computer science program specifically, it's not in the first year. And so there is that first year of academic study to prepare students, to give them a good amount of background in their area before they start looking for a cooperative education session. So it is beginning later in the program after the first year. And so for more specific, program-specific information, we would just encourage students to reach out to the Cooperative Education Department as early as possible to make sure that they know the sequence for their specific area.
Awesome, thank you so much. And just answering a few more questions before we dive back into the other topics. The first one is, what is registration and when will registration start? So registration at Lakehead University, there's two different options. So if you are studying an undergraduate program, it is all done online. Registration we do anticipate for first year students in an undergraduate degree will begin near the end of June. And we do have something called Fast Pass webinars. So those webinars are hosted by Enrollment Services. And we do have dedicated session for international students so that you can actually work with our advisors on the Lakehead campus to register for the proper courses based on your program requirements, based on what program you're pursuing, of course. And you can learn more information about that if you do visit our website, lakeheadu.ca/international/future. We have more information about course registration as well. You will receive communications from our mailing team. You will receive email communications, I should say, regarding registration and Fast Pass webinars. The next question is, will I be able to start a club if I want? So clubs are a really important experience for all of our students on campus. We have 50 plus clubs already, and they really focus on academics, politics, hobbies, general interests, cultures, or students that come from certain areas of the world, or they also represent different programs or faculties. So there's a really wide variety of clubs. But this question actually really leads into the fact that if there isn't necessarily a club that's best suited for you, or you have a certain passion that you want to explore, I believe it's that you need 10 or 15 signatures or students to also be interested in that same club. You can then go to the Lakehead University Student Union, also known as LUSU, and you can apply to have that club founded, and they'll actually give you funding to start that club. And they'll give you that money to get going, start planning out your first few events, your regular meetups, all that sort of stuff. So it's really interesting. If you are looking to learn more about clubs, you can also visit our website, lakeheadu.ca. And there is a campus life tab, and you can learn all about the clubs that we currently have. And once again, if you are interested in starting a club, you can learn about what that process looks like. Before we dive back in, there's one last question in the Q&A that I'll address, and I'll pass it off to Patrick for that one.
Hi, Jordan. Thank you. So just a quick follow-up about scholarships. Someone wanted to know more information about master's funding and master's scholarships. And here's what I'll say about all graduate level funding is that it's a little bit more of a unique process, and it depends on the faculty as well as your program of study and your individual program type. And in the link I posted a bit up in the chat about international student scholarships, there's a section of information there on both undergraduate and graduate scholarships at Lakehead University. And I would encourage any student looking for more information about graduate funding to start there and reach out to their faculty directly for their master's program. As like I mentioned, it is a little bit more of a unique and complex case-by-case situation.
Awesome, thank you so much, Patrick. So moving on, like I said, we have a few more topics to cover, and I'll have Sarah chime in again, and then Danielle, if you have anything to add for orientation or first year experience. This is a really exciting thing that I always like talking about, because I always have a nice place in my heart for it, because it's such a fun experience, especially working those events. And helping introduce and meet these students that I've been communicating with. It's odd that I host all these webinars and I start to recognize some names, I recognize faces, all that sort of stuff, and then meeting them in person, when I hear like, Jordan, it's nice to meet you, like I met you virtually so many times online, and then when I actually get to meet them and get that more one-on-one interaction, it's always great.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Jordan. Thanks for the introduction. I agree. I mean, this is just such an exciting part of what we do at Lakehead, is welcoming our new students into the Lakehead University community. So this year, of course, is different than our typical years, at least at this point, as we see sort of what happens over the next few months. But I want you all to know that we have, I'll start again with our typical programming. So typically we have students on campus. We have a few days of really focused, fun, and also informative activities to introduce students to their faculty And so this is the some of the professors and leaders within the program area that they've been accepted to understand a little bit more about what the academic expectations of their program as they're going, that they're entering, and to meet some of those people. Of course, we have a lot of just fun, engaging activities for students to get to know each other, to develop some good connections with other students who are engaged in the programs, and then also in other programs across the university, which is, you know, as Jordan is saying, you know, one of the most fun things that we get to do. So one of our events that's always very popular in our typical years is our downtown scavenger hunt, where students go to the downtown core, visit different businesses, and do a bit of a scavenger hunt in teams. And so it's a competition. It's always very, very heated, and we have teams of students running all over Thunder Bay. And I know that there's a similar type of an activity on the Aurelia campus for students to experience Aurelia. So that's just one of many of the events that we do. Another one I should mention is the opening ceremonies. And so usually we would have a procession across campus. All students, all new students and their families are welcome to attend. And the president opens the first school year for incoming students. Then we have some celebrations and performances by the athletics department and teams. And it's really just a fun way to start off the academic journey for our incoming students. Now, and of course, there are specific sessions for international students related to the needs and questions, and to provide support, peer support for international students as part of that programming as well. And so this year, of course, is unique. And so being adaptive, Lakehead is planning a virtual versions of all of our orientation programming. And so that will include fun social activities that can be completed online, both synchronously, so at the same time in groups, and then also asynchronously. So there will be activities for students to complete that can be completed at any time, and then would involve discussions and chat between different students to create those kinds of social relationships for the incoming students at Lakehead. There will be some version of the opening ceremonies. We're in the midst of planning that right now, and having a virtual version of that event to give that sense of launching the new school term. And there will also be opportunities to meet within faculties or program areas with academic leaders to give you that sense of connecting with an academic community and the academic culture. So that those activities are related to students who are just coming in, starting their studies, but then that those support services and events transition into that first year experience. And so what we strive to support at the Student Success Center, both in Thunder Bay and in Aurelia, is to support students and to continue that building of social relationships, of study groups, and of friendships, lifelong friendships throughout the first year, to give students a great experience and create those relationships and those teams and that sense of accomplishment together as a Lakehead community. So that can involve, that will this year in a virtual sense, oh, sorry for the noise, will involve different online virtual activities at this point. And of course, we are waiting to see how things progress, and we'll shift and adapt as conditions change. As far as Aurelia goes, Danielle, did you want to add anything? Maybe a few stories about orientation on the Aurelia campus?
Hi, absolutely. I think just being mindful that we very much are a collaboration. So Sarah spoke very highly on all of the events that will be coming on virtually at this time, and we all do a very collaborative approach to that. And it's also great to know that at this time it is virtually, and we are changing as we can, but it's also connecting us in a greater kind of facet that maybe Aurelia and Thunder Bay don't typically do. So this is just kind of embracing just the involvement and the campus connection and a greater availability. So I'm very excited about the possibility of doing things more virtually. It just allows students across campus to be connected. And again, like I said, we're a little bit smaller in Aurelia, so a lot of our virtual components will be participating on that, as well as combining with Thunder Bay and having that collaborative approach. So previously we've done, our principal walk-in, very similar to the president's welcome, that we've had an online component and bringing that to it, but more or less doing an opening commencement, celebrating our students coming in and joining our Aurelia campus. And just knowing that we do have all of the similar supports and services that we have in Thunder Bay, that we have a great support system here in Aurelia, in person as well as virtually, for this unique time period.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for covering the concept of orientation and the first year experience so well, and obviously speaking to both our traditional orientation and first year experience, but also the things that we're already working on and the conversations that are already happening to plan an amazing online or virtual experience. Of course, I did want to highlight, being that we are hosting the international session, something that International Student Services works collaboratively with your department, is the fact that we do host those specialized sessions to answer questions and concerns and speak to some of the unique situations that international students are considering or dealing with as they enter their academic experience here at Lakehead University. And I know that those are still moving forward, those are still planned, obviously at an alternative method now. But I'm really excited to see that, because like I said at the very beginning, we've been involved, and I've been involved in some of these international sessions for several years now. And so I'm really excited to see what we're going to bring to the table and how we're going to interact with everyone again. And so last but not least, one of the last topics that we'll wrap up today's webinar with is leadership and the opportunities that we provide our students to get connected with each other. So outside of their own program, outside of their own faculty, maybe not even friends within their residence and stuff, they're just meeting people in general on campus, but also adding to their CV, adding to their resume, and building on their skills and experience. So once again, I'll pass it off to Sarah. And Danielle, if you would like to also speak to some of the opportunities in Aurelia, I'll have you follow up too.
Great, thanks so much, Jordan. And I know that, so there are leadership opportunities and programming available to students through the Student Success Center, and then also through the International Student Services. And so there are a lot of options and choices for students as they're coming into Lakehead as international students. The Global Ambassador Program that International Student Services offers is an excellent program and a great opportunity to develop leadership skills. On the part of the Student Success Center, we offer a leadership programming that including workshops, and then also connecting students with volunteering opportunities on campus, again, building their resume, their CV, and also gaining real applied experiences in leadership. So those usually involve topics such as understanding your leadership style, how to go about leading a team, and running initiatives as a leader, and then also team building and how to create a good environment within a team as a leader. So we are really happy with those sessions. We've been moving them to a workshops format, and then also to an online format now virtually. And so there are these opportunities for students to gain knowledge, and then also to earn hours towards earning a certificate related to these a non-credit certificate related to these leadership programs. And then of course we have, I would be wrong not to mention all of the opportunities available through the student union on both campuses. And so I think there was a question earlier about student clubs and how student clubs, whether a student would be able to start a student club. This is one of the excellent ways that our students at Lakehead show their leadership ability, is by taking on leadership in a student club, participating in student club activities, and sometimes creating new clubs. I should also mention that we do have an awards program that is run on an annual basis called the Lakehead Leaders Awards. And it recognizes the contributions of students as leaders within the community and on campus. And I have to say that the student accomplishments that we see through the Lakehead Leaders Program are so impressive. And I'm sure that those students who spend time volunteering within the community, spend time volunteering in university-related activities, whether they be in person or virtual, and also starting clubs and running clubs and being part of clubs on campus. It's really amazing what students do to build their skill set and also just to give back. You know, I think it just shows the potential of our student leaders and how far they are going to go in their careers as they take all of these experiences forward. So I don't know what more I can say, except that this is, again, one of the more exciting things that we do, is just to see the leadership potential of students evolve through their time at Lakehead. And then as they move forward as alumni throughout their careers, we can see, you know, where all of those experiences take our students. Danielle, did you want to add anything specific to Aurelia?
I think you covered it all, so thank you for that. And the other thing, just to be mindful, is knowing that students can get involved with the Alumni Association too. So that's something that they can get involved in their first year. I know in Aurelia we have a fairly large chapter that students can get involved in their very first year, and that continues throughout their studies at Lakehead University, and then will continue on afterwards as they become an alumni. So that's just another little thing to get involved in, just knowing that becoming involved is very important, whether or not it's virtually at this time. When we get back on campus, that's another option, just to get involved, to get out there, meet people. And I think I always echo that in every sort of conversation is getting involved. It could be in a small way, it could be in a bigger way. There's lots of opportunities, and I know Lusu has been mentioned quite often, but it's also nice knowing that you have the opportunity to perhaps start a new club if that's not available at this time. So just, I mean, the bottom line is just being involved and asking questions and getting out there, I think is a great opportunity.
Awesome. And honestly, I have so many notes to add on to and elaborate on what you've spoke on. And just to nicely cap off with what Danielle said, is getting involved, I've heard from countless students. So if you do check out our Instagram lives with our students, at the very end, I give each student the opportunity to give advice to future students. Basically, every student I've had has said, don't be shy, don't be afraid to ask questions of us. So ask your professors, ask for peer support, ask our advisors questions, but also get involved, meet new people, experience new things, step out of your box, step out of your comfort zone. That's probably the most important thing I've heard from the students. And being a Lakehead graduate myself, I can also say the same thing. I was involved in quite a few clubs and opportunities. And I met so many new friends through that, and obviously that led into the segue of getting this job, of course, which I'm very thankful for. But also adding on to what Sarah mentioned is I appreciate the plug for our Global Ambassador Program. It's something that I actually helped spearhead with guidance, of course, from the rest of my team and the rest of my department, and support from so many other departments on campus. That's something that current students can get involved in. But speaking to new students that are incoming, International Student Services also provides the Peer Mentor Program. And I know that they are looking into what that will look like in a virtual setting, but speaking to what it's traditionally looked like is pairing up our incoming international students with senior international students that are already pre-vetted, interviewed, and really handpicked to make sure that they can coordinate and they can communicate and be available and accessible to all these new students and speak to the real experience. Because we know as much as we have the knowledge and the background to what we offer here at Lakehead, having a peer support or a senior student speak to those experiences and speak to the real life example of what's happening and what we do offer is so important. And it really speaks to all the things that we can provide. Also, I know that Sarah mentioned the Lakehead Leaders Recognition Program. If you head over to our Instagram channel, we did also recognize our international students that were a part of that leaders program. Of course, not to discredit everyone that was recognized, because those accomplishments were so significant, and I was reading all the stories and I was thoroughly impressed with everything that our students are doing, but also to the fact that our international students have made this journey to Canada and they're making such significant impacts within our broader community is so exciting to see, and we certainly wanted to recognize them. So I do encourage you to head over to our Instagram to check that out. And then I do have, I know for a fact, because I help manage the social media, that we linked to the bios for each of those students so you can read up on sort of what they've been involved in. And I know that brings us right to the hour mark. I'm just going to check back to our Q&A, see if we have any outstanding questions. So there is a question, is there any update on the delivery method for fall 2020? So we did recently announce, as the entire university, as many other Canadian universities as well, if I'm not mistaken, almost all of them, we will be primarily online with alternative delivery methods. And we know that we are going to be working out many processes, policies, and working with our students and also our faculty members to make sure that we are prepared fully for this fall transition, and those support services are going to be in place. And I know that what we've covered today with Sarah and Danielle really speaks to already what we've established before any of this happened to make sure that our students are successful in their academic and personal goals. And just to reiterate how we are going to transition them to match the new guide and the new situation, the new normal in a sense. So we do have a few questions regarding the English language program, as well as fees for accommodations. So for those students that are interested in learning about our English language program, you can actually visit our website, lakeheadu.ca/international. There is an English language center tab. It lists all the requirements, gives you a sample or a preview of what that looks like. And it also, of course, has an application to the link. If you do have any more specific questions, you can always connect with us at welcome@lakeheadu.ca, and we can then forward that email or connect you directly with our coworkers in ELC, and they'd be happy to answer those questions too. There are questions about the deadline for acceptance of graduate programs. So in your letter of acceptance or your offer letter, you will have a unique date or deadline to accept that offer. So please refer to your individual offer. I know that our offers are accessible through your MyInfo account online and virtually, so I do encourage you to do that. So I know that our special guests have to head out soon, so I want to thank them while I have them for joining us. I really appreciate it. And I just want to say thank you once again for joining us. And I'll remind our viewers, so we are on social media. If you follow us, Lakehead University International is our Facebook page. We also have a group dedicated to the incoming class of 2020. Great conversations already happening on that group. Lots of people are meeting each other, meeting people in the program, meeting people from their hometown, potential roommates, all sorts of conversations are happening, and it's lovely to see that. I believe now we're at almost 300. I got plenty of requests this weekend, and I was working diligently to accept people that had filled out all the questions I have on there. And we're also on Instagram, Lakehead International. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we're hosting Instagram Lives. We're also on Twitter, Lakehead INTL. And last but not least, we're on YouTube, Lakehead University. And then, like I said, we have 2 playlists for international audiences, Lakehead International Lives, which is our webinars that are recorded, and the Lakehead International playlist, which is just a broad overview of testimonials, more about Lakehead, all that sort of stuff. For those of our viewers in China, we are on Weibo, WeChat, and Youku. And last but not least, if you would like to explore our campus, get to know how beautiful our facilities are, but also how beautiful the surrounding environment is and the scenery and whatnot, you can take that virtual tour from the comfort of your own home. If you visit lakeheadu.ca/tours, you can do it at your own convenience. There's no appointments necessary. It's do it at your own pace, sort of. So I'll pass maybe over to Sarah if she wants to say a goodbye, and also Danielle if she's still there. Otherwise, thanks again for joining us, folks.
Oh, thanks, Jordan. Yeah, I would love to just encourage everyone to really consider joining us at Lakehead as we move forward into the fall. I think it's just a wonderful student community that we have here, and we would love to have you. Again, as you move forward, consider really connect with our student services, with all of the different opportunities that we talked about during this webinar, we're more than happy to help you, and we would be very happy to see you, whether virtually or in person, as soon as possible.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. So once again, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I really appreciate all of the questions. We certainly dove into quite a bit of topics, and I hope that you got some more details and more information about what we do here to support our students both in their academic and personal pursuits. Once again, thank you, and I hope to see you tomorrow on our Instagram Live. Bye for now.